Do you think the industry professionals, you being the vice president, you have a host team members who would be handling these students who come from B schools and other places. Do you think the line managers have so much of time to spend with them? That has always been our concern. Do they spend time or do they just give something which is at the back end job and leave it at that? Because the current scenario I see, if most organizations say that we'll take them on internship and if we feel they are good, we'll hire them. So if you're not giving them sufficient time, how do you check whether they have really learned and they have that?
My aspiration from the universities and the academic institutions is the ecosystems have changed, the aspirations of people have changed, and it's a global connected world. As a resultant of which, people are not looking at a 9 to 5 kind of engagement at all. And today is a world of gig economy. People are looking at I decide in terms of when I have to work, etc. I mean, the ecosystem around us are so rapidly changing. We can't be straitjacketed doing things that we were doing 4 years back.
Hi, Nitin.
Hello.
Hi. Nitin, you've been working with as a vice president in Omega Healthcare, and you've worked with number of organizations, right from aviation to health sector to retail. I don't know, Landmark. You worked with Lee Conscious Services. Tell me what kind of challenges you see when you are hiring students in the current scenario from B schools or any other profession, because you've been in HR. So I'm sure you would be meeting at least 10,000 to 20,000 students every month. What kind of challenges do you see?
I would say that these are challenges, but at the same time, it also comes with a lot of opportunities. The aspirations for every 2-3 years, what we find in the market, the aspirations of job seekers would tremendously change. So whenever we are talking to the students, we want to actually make sure that the industry is fully equipped to address their interest, their aspirations. Because at the end of the day, workforce is a culmination of people from very diverse backdrops.
Absolutely.
And the organization really needs to catch the pulse before they actually embark on the journey of how to engage them. If they miss that, then there's a huge cost associated to kind of retrain those, both the line managers as well as the ecosystem. So the fundamental thing what we do is also to keep an eye in terms of our ears and eyes on the ground to really understand in terms of what are the aspirations of the people. And it is easier for us to prepare the ecosystem to welcome the talent that is coming in.
Right.
The challenges also would be in the form of skill gaps. Today, largely the focus is on academia, but when it comes to the industry, hands-on experience is something most of the line managers will.
Very nice. When you said hands-on experience, now, generally every B school goes through an internship program for 2 months. What would be your suggestion? Should we increase it? Should we decrease it? How do we bring in that application or applied knowledge to students? What kind of things would you want from academic institutions like ours?
First is the quality of the internship program in itself,
Okay.
because one need to make sure that it qualifies for the challenges that the industries are facing.
Okay.
Many a times we see that there is a gap. Although the internships, it depends on what's the kind of depth and the breadth that they gather. Second is what's the duration of those internships also.
What would be an ideal duration?
My recommendation for the academia would be that an internship engaging at least for 6 months would be a good time. Because normally what happens in a shorter capsule of 2 months, 3 months, it becomes very difficult for the line managers to make sure that they first have to equip the students to make sure that they have.
Very nice. I have a question here. Do you think the industry professionals, you being the vice president, you have a host team members who would be handling these students who come from B schools and other places. Do you think the line managers have so much of time to spend with them? That has always been our concern. Do they spend time, or do they just give something which is at the back end job and leave it at that? Because the current scenario I see, if most organizations say that we'll take them on internship, and if we feel they are good, we'll hire them. So if you're not giving them sufficient time, how do you check whether they have really learned and they have the attitude to learn?
It's a very good question. In fact, normally how does the internship evolve? Because today, if you were to look into the market, most of the companies engages with the human resources, personnel
Right.
as a first point of contact
Absolutely.
to suggest or to probably work on a engagement program with them on internship. At the same time, it's equally important, both from an academia as well as the industry, to make sure that the line managers also start engaging with, academia.
Right.
Because end of the day, it is the hiring manager who plays the role of actually mentoring people in their chosen, in their respective departments.
Right.
So one of the opportunities that exist from both the ends is that can we create an ecosystem where the point of contact is just not the placement cell and the human resources department of a company, rather what are some of the opportunities where the industry and academia can collaborate at multiple levels, so that the line managers also get to see what the student community is all about, what are some of the capabilities and the skills that they carry, which can be of a significant help.
Could you give us some examples which would help an academic institution like ours when they have to collaborate with industry professionals, when they have to talk to industry professionals and ask them for some help, where we can collaborate and we can do something? Take for example, now we do a recording, media people. How do we collaborate with industry professionals where we conduct an interview for say 5 minutes where a student starts learning this, so it is applied, which is a win-win situation for both? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah. So one of the things that I see, there are multiple challenges that the industry actually faces. And it's important for the universities and the academic institutions to understand what are the set of problems that you are working. Thereby, you can create an inventory of the current set of challenges pertinent to a particular company that you are approaching. And thereby, go back to the drawing board to see in terms of what are some of the engagements that we can participate and start working with these companies. I'll give you an example. When I was in retail industry, one of the prominent things that we want to really understand is what has been experiences of various customers. Now it's a time and motion kind of an activity.
Right.
And irrespective of even if I were to deploy any of my own resources, the bias actually creeps in. Because we will start looking from a retailer and from a merchant mindset. So what we really need at that point of time is either a market research agency which can do that job, but that activity can be done fabulously well by some of the student community. So wherein they will do mystery shopper kind of a program. They will actually, kind of record the conversations of the aspirations, changing preferences of the consumers. Is there any item that they came specifically looking for in their shopping list which is not available in that particular, retail outlet? Or it can be what is the ease of them shopping within the, or what kind of payment mechanism. Sometimes when you go to the cash till, you understand that some of the payment methodologies are not there. You may have a customer who would say that, look, is it possible for me that, can I pay through the bitcoins? Because you will have some of the expats walking into your store and asking that, hey, can I actually make a payment through the bitcoin, right?
And last question, one side you have diversity and inclusion, which is becoming very, very, very important, and everyone says that you need to have more and more diverse work culture. How does organization look into it, and how do they audit this diversity when they are doing HR audits?
See, we have a slightly different tangent, and it's also the inner belief of the leadership team when they sit across the table to understand in terms of what does diversity really mean to you, right? Largely in the Indian ecosystem, I find that gender diversity is the most spoken about, or probably the LGBT community or differently able. These are the three categories that most of the companies are today talking, right? But when we talk about diversity, we're looking at a diversity from various, from various levels. We are looking at a geodiversity, we are looking at cultural diversity, we are looking at a religious diversity, we are looking at socio-economic fabric diversity, we are looking at, educational backdrop, experience. So not specifically juxtaposing ourselves with a given set of, what is the buzzword in the industry. And so most of the companies have the policy of actually falling prey to only those set of frameworks. In fact, we need to broaden that. The easy solution, what we have at least understood out of some of the iterations that we have done, is every organization, however big or small, have some great practices. It takes enormous time to understand what's your best practice. So the first part of actually doing a diversity audit is to understand, even before formulating what plans you have for the future, you need to understand what's happening currently in the company. So we capture all the data sets that we have. In terms of, now we said that there are some 12 to 14 items that we are looking at. How are we faring on each of those items? Which are the ones which are underrepresented, and what can we do about it? And for this particular financial year, what would be some of the diversity that we need to actually increase, and what are some of the programs that we can run? Like for instance, armed forces professionals, serving veterans is something which is popular in the West, but that's not popular. When we were in the airlines, because of the paucity of talent that you will not find in a civilian life, you essentially have to go to armed forces, which prepares that kind of a large section of people, whether it were to be for your security, whether it were to be for your load and trim, whether it were to be for your avionics, whether it were to be for your airframes. When you really run out of options, the only fallback is to start spreading your wings and seeing in terms of what are some of the diverse populations you can look at. Now that is a need-based kind of a theory, but it is not that, from a representation standpoint the organization wants to do. But what I want to profess is that there are opportunities for every company to actually look at people who want to do second innings, and what are some of the great derivatives that we can derive by engaging this set of population.
Okay, one last question, and with this we'll finish. I just wanted to know how much money is actually spent on training, because everyone claims that I spend 5% of my revenue, profit after tax, on training. Do you think that is really happening in the corporate world today, where you have so much of options? You have so many edtech companies, you have so many courses which are available online. What would be your suggestion, and what is your experience, since you've been in HR and you've been a vice president? You would know, and you have worked with diverse companies, not just one or two.
See, budget is often spoken about, but it's more a mindset than the budget. Because I have witnessed firsthand, in terms of today, the cost of training somebody has also drastically reduced for whatever reasons that you just quoted, in terms of whether it is online learning which is available free of cost on YouTube, or how are you engaging with your different kind of learners, because learners are very different. Are you actually engaging with those who are visually capable of picking up something? Some few people are hardwired to actually do something kinesthetically to learn. Some people are very slow learners. Some people don't want distractions, and they want to be they want to do the learning at their own pace, right? So some of the modules that we can think about is to create very small capsules. We call it as a capsule learning, which is not a long drawn approach.
Absolutely.
Adult learning is all about
Absolutely.
the moment they come out of a particular age bracket, sitting inside a classroom or probably
work with
engaging for one particular activity too long a time is going to be a great amount of effort. Now, how are we going to actually address that problem is significant. So if you are able to actually do a combination of small, short bite learnings, which we call, and give them an opportunity for people to say that you learn at your own pace. And so then what happens, we create a learning ecosystem rather than a training-led organization versus a learning-led organization. So, that's something that we have tried and that has worked wonders. And so we have created ecosystem where we encourage people to learn from different, today there are various technologies. Like for instance, one of the things which I really want to point out, is that whenever we have any exit of any important critical resources from a company, it's practically impossible to capture the mind space of that individual in the 2 months of notice period somebody is serving. I'm just giving an example. So, is it possible for you to have a repository of a knowledge base as and when somebody is doing something? Is that activity actually getting fed into your knowledge base, which can be your feeder line for all the population which is going to come in, because somebody would have solved the problem because of the ingenuity that he has.
Correct. So
But
you're
unless
talking
you
about knowledge,
document those as a part of your learning ecosystem, it becomes very difficult, because each time you have to actually go and reinvent the wheel, which should not be the case.
Brilliant. One suggestion for Alliance.
No, I think largely
You've been associated
not
with us
just
for-
with Alliance, but this is my aspiration from the universities and the academic institutions is the ecosystems have changed, the aspirations of people have changed, and it's a global connected world. As a resultant of which, people are not looking at a 9 to 5 kind of a engagement at all. And today is a world of gig economy. People are looking at, I decide in terms of when I have to work, etc. I mean, the ecosystem around us are so rapidly changing, we can't be straitjacketed doing things that we were doing 4 years back. So that applies to industry, that applies to academia as well. So my request is that when students want to actually do an internship, and some students have an aspiration to actually be mentored for 1 year or 2 years throughout their program. It can be an engineering program, it can be a management program, it can be a journalism program. Are we creating enough opportunities for those people to really shadow big leaders? Are we creating an opportunity for them to do a 6 months or a 1 year learning? Because skill-based learning is very, very different from what is being taught by an instructor-led kind of a learning, right? So, if that were to happen, I think there will be the fruits of the reward would be significantly higher, both for universities as well as companies. Because today we are thinking that the responsibility students have thinking is that the university is responsible for my placement.
Absolutely.
And the companies are thinking that, look, learning is not my responsibility, university is going to prepare the talent that I require. So I think those are some of the fault lines that jointly we need to address.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure meeting you.
Likewise, thank you so much.